Dawn breaks over 7 hills. The Tiber River winds below, its waters holding secrets of a civilization waiting to be born. Before the marble columns, before the triumphant arches, before the thundering legions and golden eagles, there was only this: a wolf, 2 abandoned infants, 7 hills destined for greatness. No temples pierced the sky, no senate chambers echoed with debates, only small tribes fighting to survive among marshes and hills. This is the story of how it all began, and how close it came to never existing at all. Welcome to the birth of Rome. Rome's story begins not in Italy, but in the burning ruins of Troy. Through the flames and chaos of a fallen city emerged a hero, Aeneas, son of Venus and a Trojan prince. As Greek warriors ravaged the city, Aeneas shouldered a unique burden. With his elderly father Anchises on his back, his household gods in his hands, and leading his young son Aeneas by the hand, he guided a band of survivors through the smoke-filled streets. Behind them, Troy's mighty towers collapsed, and ahead lay an uncertain journey across treacherous seas. The gods themselves wove the threads of Aeneas's fate. His mother Venus appeared to him in visions, guiding his fleet through storms and battles. The journey tested every fiber of his character. He faced raging tempests sent by the vengeful Juno, battled fearsome monsters, and descended into the underworld itself to seek counsel from his deceased father. Yet perhaps his greatest trial came on the shores of Carthage. There, Queen Dido, herself a refugee who had built a magnificent city, opened her heart and kingdom to the Trojan prince. Their love blossomed amidst the rising walls of Carthage, and for a time, Aeneas forgot his destiny. But the gods would not be denied. Mercury, messenger of Jupiter, reminded Aeneas of his divine mission. He must reach Italy and establish a new homeland for his people. In the dark of night, Aeneas gathered his followers and set sail, leaving Dido behind. The heartbroken queen cursed him and his descendants as she took her own life, igniting a hatred between Carthage and the future Rome that would ultimately lead to centuries of warfare. When Aeneas's ships finally reached Italian shores, they found a land of rolling hills and fertile valleys, but also of war. The Latin tribes, led by King Latinus, initially welcomed the Trojans. Latinus, guided by prophecies, offered his daughter Lavinia in marriage to Aeneas. However, this decision sparked conflict with Turnus, king of the Rutuli, who had been Lavinia's previous suitor. A great war erupted, testing whether the Trojans would find their new home or face destruction once again. Through skill, courage, and divine aid, Aeneas prevailed, establishing the city of Lavinium in honor of his bride. His son Ascanius, also known as Iulus, would later found Alba Longa in the Alban Hills, establishing a dynasty that would rule for generations. The Julii family of Rome would later claim descent from Iulus, linking themselves to Venus through this ancestral line. This connection between Troy's fall and Rome's rise would become a central part of Roman identity, symbolizing their ability to triumph over adversity and fulfill their divine destiny. Centuries passed until the throne of Alba Longa fell to King Numitor. His reign marked the beginning of Rome's immediate origin story. Numitor's brother Amulius, consumed by ambition, seized power through treachery. He murdered Numitor's sons and forced his daughter Rhea Silvia to become a Vestal virgin, swearing her to 30 years of celibacy to prevent any heirs who might challenge his rule. But the gods had grander designs. Mars, the mighty god of war, became enamored with Rhea Silvia. Some versions of the tale speak of him appearing to her in dreams, others of him taking the form of a wolf. Whatever the truth, Rhea Silvia conceived and bore twin sons. When Amulius learned of their birth, his rage knew no bounds. He ordered the infants thrown into the flooded Tiber River, believing the turbulent waters would carry away any threat to his crown. Yet fate, or perhaps the divine hand of Mars, intervened. The basket carrying the twins drifted gently downstream, eventually coming to rest near the Palatine Hill. Here, one of Rome's most iconic images was born. A she-wolf, drawn by the infants' cries, found them and nursed them as her own cubs. She was joined in this task by a woodpecker, Mars's sacred bird, who brought them additional food. This she-wolf, known as the Lupa Capitolina, would become a powerful symbol of Rome's dual nature, fierce yet nurturing, wild yet civilized. A shepherd named Faustulus discovered the boys and, with his wife Acca Laurentia, raised them as their own. Some versions of the tale suggest Acca Laurentia was known as Lupa, wolf, because of her reputation, adding a human element to the legendary wolf mother. Under their care, Romulus and Remus grew into extraordinary young men, their divine heritage evident in their strength, courage, and natural leadership abilities. As young men, they became leaders among the local shepherds, gathering a following of bold youth who joined them in protecting their flocks from wild beasts and raiders. Their true identity was revealed when a dispute with shepherds of their uncle Amulius led to Remus's capture. Brought before the king, his remarkable resemblance to his mother aroused suspicion. Faustulus confessed the truth to Romulus, and the twins, gathering their loyal followers, launched a successful assault on Alba Longa. They overthrew Amulius, restored their grandfather Numitor to his rightful throne, and earned the gratitude of the people. But destiny called them to forge their own path. The twins decided to found a new city near the location where the she-wolf had saved them. However, they soon discovered that even brothers blessed by the gods could be divided by ambition. Romulus chose the Palatine Hill for his city, while Remus selected the Aventine. They agreed to let the gods decide through augury, the sacred reading of birds in flight. Remus, positioned on the Aventine, saw 6 vultures first, but Romulus, on the Palatine, saw 12. A bitter dispute erupted over these signs. Did Remus's earlier sighting or Romulus's larger number of birds matter more? As Romulus began to mark the sacred boundaries of his city with a plow, a ritual that made the city's walls inviolable, Remus mockingly jumped over the furrow. In a moment that would echo through Roman history, Romulus struck his brother dead, declaring, "So perish whoever else shall leap over my walls." These foundation myths served multiple purposes in Roman culture. They gave Rome divine ancestry through Venus and Mars, explained its mixed heritage of Trojan and Latin blood, and justified its destiny to rule. The tale of abandoned twins who became great leaders echoed other ancient stories, from Mesopotamian king Sargon to the biblical Moses, lending Rome's origin universal resonance. The wolf mother became a powerful symbol of Rome itself, fierce in war yet nurturing to its own people. Aeneas's journey from refugee to founder mirrored Rome's own transformation from humble beginnings to imperial power. Even the tragic death of Remus carried important messages about authority, law, and the costs of greatness. Yet while poets sang these tales around evening fires and orators invoked them in speeches, another story was emerging from the earth itself. As Rome grew from these legendary beginnings, it would need more than myths to sustain it. It would need stone and timber, laws and armies, allies and innovations. The archaeological evidence would tell its own tale of Rome's beginnings, one buried beneath centuries of legend and glory, waiting to be uncovered. While myths spoke of wolves and divine twins, beneath the soil of Rome lay another story, written not in poetry but in stone, clay, and bronze. As we step away from legend into the realm of archaeology, we find ourselves in a world of careful excavation, patient analysis, and surprising discoveries that both challenge and confirm the tales of old. The story begins around the 10th century BCE, long before Romulus's supposed founding date. The landscape that would become Rome was already alive with human activity. The Palatine Hill, destined to become the legendary home of Romulus, has yielded some of the most remarkable evidence of early settlement. Here, archaeologists have uncovered post holes from wooden huts, fragments of everyday pottery, and burial sites dating to the 900s BCE. These humble remains paint a picture not of legendary heroes, but of resourceful settlers who chose this strategic location for their home. These early Romans lived in simple oval and rectangular huts, their walls made of wooden posts and clay, their roofs thatched with straw. While modest compared to the marble palaces that would later crown the hills, these dwellings tell us much about their inhabitants. The arrangement of the huts suggests a community already organized around shared spaces and common purposes. Cooking areas, storage pits, and evidence of metalworking reveal a society more sophisticated than mere groups of shepherds. The choice of location was no accident. The Tiber River, flowing past the site of early Rome, provided more than just water. It was a natural highway for trade and communication. Salt flats near its mouth became valuable trading commodities, while the river's fordable point near the future city made it a natural crossroads. The hills themselves offered natural defense against raiders and flooding, while the valleys between them provided fertile soil for agriculture. One of the most significant discoveries came from the Roman Forum, a swampy lowland that would later become the heart of Roman civic life. Here, archaeologists found evidence of careful land reclamation dating back to the 8th century BCE. The early Romans transformed this marsh into usable land through an ambitious drainage project, suggesting a level of engineering skill and social organization that aligns surprisingly well with historical accounts of Rome's early kings. The Lapis Niger, a mysterious black stone shrine in the Forum, provides one of the earliest examples of Latin writing yet discovered. Dating to around the 6th century BCE, its fragmentary inscription mentions kings and sacred matters, offering a tantalizing glimpse of Rome's transition from village to city-state. Some scholars connect this shrine to the legendary tomb of Romulus, though its true purpose remains debated. Equally revealing are the changes in burial practices. The earliest graves showed a variety of customs, suggesting a population drawn from different communities, much like the legends of Romulus's asylum for refugees. Over time, these practices became more uniform, indicating the gradual formation of a distinct Roman identity. Grave goods tell us of trade networks reaching far beyond the Tiber Valley, with items from Etruria, Greece, and even more distant lands. The discovery of the Lupercal, a cave shrine beneath the Palatine Hill, caused excitement when announced in 2007. This vaulted chamber, decorated with shells and mosaics, might be the legendary cave where the she-wolf nursed Romulus and Remus. While its original date remains contested, its location matches ancient descriptions of this sacred site. Evidence of early fortifications has also emerged. The remains of walls dating to the 8th and 7th centuries BCE suggest a community already concerned with defense and capable of organizing major construction projects. These walls, though primitive compared to later Roman engineering, required significant labor and planning to build. Perhaps most intriguing are the signs of early cultural mixing. Artifacts show clear influence from both Latin and Sabine communities, lending some credence to the legend of their merger under Romulus. Etruscan pottery and architectural techniques appear alongside Greek-inspired decorative items, revealing a settlement already engaged in wider Mediterranean networks of trade and cultural exchange. The material culture also reveals social stratification. By the 7th century BCE, some homes were clearly larger and better furnished than others, suggesting the emergence of an elite class. This matches historical accounts of the development of patrician families who would later dominate Roman politics. Religious artifacts provide another window into early Roman society. Small household shrines, ritual deposits, and temple foundations show a community deeply invested in sacred practices. The discovery of votive offerings, small figurines, pottery, and precious items deliberately buried as gifts to the gods, reveals personal acts of devotion that complement the grand state religions of later periods. Yet archaeology also challenges some cherished Roman traditions. The supposed founding date of 753 BCE appears arbitrary when faced with evidence of much earlier settlement. The dramatic transformation from village to city seems more gradual than legendary accounts suggest. Instead of a single founder's vision, we see a process of steady growth, adaptation, and increasing sophistication. The archaeological record reveals a Rome that grew organically, absorbing influences from its neighbors while developing its own distinct identity. The Etruscans contributed architectural techniques and religious practices, visible in temple designs and decorative elements. Greek influence appeared in pottery styles and artistic conventions. Local Latin and Sabine traditions provided the foundation for Roman social and political organization. But perhaps most remarkably, archaeology shows how early Romans adapted to challenges. They drained swamps, terraced hillsides, and built increasingly sophisticated defenses. They learned metalworking, adopted new agricultural techniques, and developed complex trading networks. This practical genius, more than any mythical divine favor, would become Rome's greatest strength. As we sift through these material remains, we find a story both more modest and more impressive than the legends suggest. Instead of divine twins and heroic founders, we discover generations of ordinary people who, through determination and ingenuity, built something extraordinary. Their Rome was not born in a day, with a plowshare marking sacred boundaries, but emerged gradually through countless small innovations and adaptations. The archaeological evidence thus offers a bridge between myth and reality. While it may not confirm tales of wolf mothers and fratricidal founders, it reveals a community every bit as remarkable as the legends suggest. These early Romans, whoever they were, laid the foundations for one of history's most enduring civilizations, not through divine intervention, but through the patient work of building, trading, and organizing their world. As myth gave way to history and archaeological evidence revealed its secrets, Rome entered a period that would shape its destiny for centuries to come, the Age of the Seven Kings. Each ruler would leave an indelible mark on the growing city, transforming it from a collection of hilltop settlements into a powerful city-state poised for greatness. Romulus, the legendary first king, established more than just the city's boundaries. After securing his position through the fratricide of Remus, he faced the challenge of building a real community from his diverse band of followers. His solution was bold and pragmatic. He declared Rome a sanctuary for outcasts, fugitives, and the ambitious. This policy of inclusion, though born of necessity, would become one of Rome's greatest strengths. Yet this growing population faced an immediate crisis, a severe shortage of women. Romulus's solution would become legendary. He organized grand games, inviting the neighboring Sabines to attend. During the festivities, at a predetermined signal, each Roman seized a Sabine woman. This rape of the Sabine women led to war, but with an unexpected resolution. The Sabine women themselves, now wives and mothers to Romans, intervened in the battle between their husbands and fathers. The result was a unique political solution. The Sabines and Romans united under joint rule, with Romulus sharing power with the Sabine king Titus Tatius. This early example of political compromise doubled Rome's strength and population, while establishing a precedent for resolving conflicts through integration rather than destruction. Romulus's reign ended as mysteriously as it began. During a storm that plunged the city into darkness, he vanished. Some claimed he was murdered by senators who feared his growing power. Others believed he ascended to godhood as Quirinus. After Romulus, the crown passed to a very different kind of leader. Numa Pompilius, chosen from among the Sabines, would transform Rome through peace rather than war. Where Romulus had been a warrior, Numa was a philosopher king who claimed divine inspiration. Through his conversations with the nymph Egeria, his reign marked Rome's spiritual and legal awakening. Numa established many of Rome's most important religious institutions. He created the position of Pontifex Maximus, high priest of Roman religion, and organized various priesthoods, including the Flamens, Vestal Virgins, and Salii. The Temple of Janus, whose doors were closed in peace and opened in war, stood as a symbol of his peaceful reign. They would rarely be closed again in Roman history. Perhaps most importantly, Numa gave Rome its first comprehensive legal and religious calendar. He divided the year into 12 months, established regular festivals, and created a system of religious observances that would structure Roman life for centuries. His reforms weren't merely spiritual. They helped transform a warrior band into an ordered society. The peace of Numa's reign gave way to the martial ambitions of Tullus Hostilius, Rome's third king. Under Tullus, Rome returned to expansion through conquest. His most famous campaign was against Alba Longa, Rome's mother city. Rather than risk full-scale war, the conflict was decided by a duel between three brothers from each city, the Horatii of Rome and the Curiati of Alba Longa. This famous combat ended in Roman victory, though at terrible cost. The sole surviving Horatius returned home to find his sister weeping over one of the dead Curiati, her betrothed. In a rage, he killed her, declaring that any Roman woman who mourned an enemy deserved death. His subsequent trial established important principles of Roman law, including the right of appeal to the people in capital cases. Tullus's aggressive reign ended dramatically. Tradition holds that Jupiter struck him down with a thunderbolt for neglecting religious duties. He was succeeded by Ancus Marcius, grandson of Numa, who sought to balance his grandfather's piety with necessary military action. Ancus's reign marked important developments in Rome's infrastructure. He built the first bridge across the Tiber, the Pons Sublicius, and established the port city of Ostia at the river's mouth. These projects reflected Rome's growing commercial importance and the need to control river traffic. He also expanded the city's defenses, fortifying the Janiculum Hill and constructing the first prison, the Mamertine. A dramatic change came with Rome's fifth king, Lucius Tarquinius Priscus, an Etruscan immigrant. His reign marked the beginning of Rome's great building projects. He began the construction of the Circus Maximus for chariot racing, started draining the Forum area through the Cloaca Maxima, Rome's great sewer, and initiated the Temple of Jupiter Optimus Maximus on the Capitoline Hill. Tarquinius's death, allegedly orchestrated by sons of Ancus Marcius, led to the surprising succession of Servius Tullius. Born a slave but married to Tarquinius's daughter, Servius proved to be one of Rome's greatest reformers. His most lasting achievement was the Servian Constitution, which organized Roman citizens into classes based on wealth rather than birth. This reform created the basis for both the Roman army and political system. Servius also built Rome's first true city walls and conducted the first Roman census. His reign ended tragically when he was murdered by his own daughter Tullia and her husband Lucius Tarquinius Superbus, who would become Rome's seventh and final king. Tarquinius Superbus, the Proud, lived up to his name through arrogant and cruel rule. Though he completed many of his predecessors' building projects and expanded Roman territory, his tyranny alienated both nobles and commoners. The final straw came when his son Sextus raped Lucretia, wife of his cousin Collatinus. Lucretia's suicide sparked a revolution led by Lucius Junius Brutus. The monarchy was overthrown, and Brutus established the Roman Republic, swearing that Rome would never again be ruled by kings. Tarquinius made several attempts to regain his throne, even enlisting foreign support. But the Romans held firm in their rejection of monarchy. The seven kings had ruled Rome for about 2.5 centuries, each contributing to its development. Romulus gave Rome its basic institutions and fighting spirit. Numa provided religious and legal foundations. Tullus expanded Roman power while Ancus developed infrastructure. The Tarquins and Servius Tullius transformed Rome physically and politically. Together they had turned a collection of hilltop villages into a true city-state, with strong walls, public buildings, organized religion, and political institutions. When the monarchy fell, Rome was ready for its next great experiment, the Republic that would eventually conquer the Mediterranean world. Yet, even as Romans celebrated their liberation from tyranny, they never completely rejected the legacy of their kings. The title Rex, king, was maintained for certain religious offices, and many royal institutions continued under republican forms. The monarchy had ended, but its influence would shape Roman civilization for centuries to come. The end of Rome's monarchy unfolded like a tragedy worthy of the greatest dramatists. At its heart stood three figures: a tyrannical king, a virtuous woman, and a nobleman who played the fool to survive. Their actions would transform Rome forever, setting it on a path toward republican government that would shape world history. Lucius Tarquinius Superbus, Rome's seventh king, had earned his epithet the Proud through years of cruel and arbitrary rule. Unlike his predecessors who sought at least the appearance of popular support, Tarquin governed through fear. He executed nobles who opposed him, abolished ancient religious customs, and used forced labor to complete his grand building projects. Even the Senate, that ancient council established by Romulus himself, was reduced to a shadow of its former authority. Yet it was a private crime, not public oppression, that finally sparked revolution. In 509 BCE, while King Tarquin was besieging the city of Ardea, his son Sextus Tarquinius visited the home of his cousin Collatinus. There he found Collatinus's wife Lucretia, a woman renowned for her beauty and virtue. That night, Sextus returned with a sword, threatening to kill both her and a slave, positioning their bodies to suggest adultery, unless she submitted to his desires. Lucretia, faced with this choice between death with dishonor or life with shame, submitted to the assault. The next day, Lucretia summoned her father and husband, along with witnesses including Lucius Junius Brutus. After recounting her violation, she plunged a dagger into her heart, making her body the catalyst for revolution. Brutus, who had long feigned stupidity to survive Tarquin's purges, hence his name, meaning dull or stupid, pulled the dagger from Lucretia's wound and swore a solemn oath. Never again would Rome suffer a king. Brutus's call for revolution found fertile ground. The people, long oppressed by Tarquin's tyranny, rallied to the cause of liberty. The army besieging Ardea abandoned their king when they heard the news. Tarquin, rushing back to Rome, found the city gates barred against him. In a single dramatic moment, 5 centuries of Roman monarchy came to an end. But ending tyranny proved easier than establishing liberty. The revolutionaries faced crucial questions. How would Rome be governed without a king? What institutions would prevent the rise of new tyrants? How could the state maintain stability while ensuring freedom? Their solution was both innovative and conservative. Rather than completely dismantling the existing system, they redistributed royal power among multiple officials. 2 consuls would replace the king, each serving for 1 year and each able to veto the other's decisions. This brilliant innovation preserved executive authority while preventing its abuse. No single person could dominate the state. Brutus himself became one of Rome's first consuls, alongside Collatinus, Lucretia's widower. Together they established the foundations of republican government. The Senate regained its authority as the primary advisory body. New assemblies gave citizens a voice in governance. Laws were codified and displayed publicly, ensuring justice wasn't merely the king's whim. Lucius Tarquinius Superbus, Rome's seventh king, had earned his epithet the Proud through years of cruel and arbitrary rule. Unlike his predecessors who sought at least the appearance of popular support, Tarquin governed through fear. He executed nobles who opposed him, abolished ancient religious customs, and used forced labor to complete his grand building projects. Even the Senate, that ancient council established by Romulus himself, was reduced to a shadow of its former authority. Yet it was a private crime, not public oppression, that finally sparked revolution. In 509 BCE, while King Tarquin was besieging the city of Ardea, his son Sextus Tarquinius visited the home of his cousin Collatinus. There he found Collatinus's wife, Lucretia, a woman renowned for her beauty and virtue. That night, Sextus returned with a sword, threatening to kill both her and a slave, positioning their bodies to suggest adultery unless she submitted to his desires. Lucretia, faced with this choice between death with dishonor or life with shame, submitted to the assault. The next day, Lucretia summoned her father and husband, along with witnesses including Lucius Junius Brutus. After recounting her violation, she plunged a dagger into her heart, making her body the catalyst for revolution. Brutus, who had long feigned stupidity to survive Tarquin's purges, hence his name, meaning dull or stupid, pulled the dagger from Lucretia's wound and swore a solemn oath. Never again would Rome suffer a king. Brutus's call for revolution found fertile ground. The people, long oppressed by Tarquin's tyranny, rallied to the cause of liberty. The army besieging Ardea abandoned their king when they heard the news. Tarquin, rushing back to Rome, found the city gates barred against him. In a single dramatic moment, 5 centuries of Roman monarchy came to an end. But ending tyranny proved easier than establishing liberty. The revolutionaries faced crucial questions. How would Rome be governed without a king? What institutions would prevent the rise of new tyrants? How could the state maintain stability while ensuring freedom? Their solution was both innovative and conservative. Rather than completely dismantling the existing system, they redistributed royal power among multiple officials. 2 consuls would replace the king, each serving for 1 year and each able to veto the other's decisions. This brilliant innovation preserved executive authority while preventing its abuse. No single person could dominate the state. Brutus himself became one of Rome's first consuls, alongside Collatinus, Lucretia's widower. Together, they established the foundations of republican government. The Senate regained its authority as the primary advisory body. New assemblies gave citizens a voice in governance. Laws were codified and displayed publicly, ensuring justice wasn't merely the king's whim. Yet the young republic faced immediate challenges. Tarquin had no intention of accepting his exile quietly. He found allies among other Latin cities, particularly Veii and Tarquini, who saw an opportunity to weaken their powerful neighbor. The first great test of Republican Rome came when these forces marched against the city. The Battle of Silva Arzia in 509 BCE proved both triumphant and tragic. The Romans prevailed, but at terrible cost. Brutus himself fell in combat against Tarquin's son Aruns, the 2 leaders killing each other in a furious cavalry charge. Rome had preserved its liberty, but lost one of its founders. Internal threats proved as dangerous as external ones. A group of young noblemen, including Brutus's own sons, conspired to restore the monarchy. When the plot was discovered, Brutus demonstrated the Republic's commitment to law over blood. He personally presided over his son's trial and execution, showing that no one, not even the children of a founder, stood above the law. The next few years saw continued attempts by Tarquin to regain his throne. He found his most powerful ally in Lars Porsena, king of Clusium, who led an Etruscan army against Rome. This crisis produced new Roman heroes. Horatius, who held the bridge against the Etruscan army while it was destroyed behind him. Lucius Scaevola, who demonstrated Roman determination by burning off his own hand. And Cloelia, a young woman who escaped Etruscan captivity by swimming the Tiber. These early struggles shaped the Republic's character. The threat of tyranny led Romans to distribute power widely, creating checks and balances that prevented any individual from becoming too powerful. The memory of Tarquin's oppression made Rex, king, a title of fear and contempt in Roman political life, though they maintained it for certain religious offices where tradition demanded. The new system proved remarkably flexible. When normal governance couldn't meet extraordinary threats, Romans created the office of dictator, a temporary emergency magistrate with broad powers but a strictly limited term. This innovation allowed them to respond to crises while preserving republican principles. Yet the Republic's early years also revealed tensions that would persist throughout Roman history. The conflict between patricians, aristocrats, and plebeians, commoners, emerged as soon as the unifying threat of Tarquin receded. Questions about the balance between liberty and authority, individual rights and state power, would continue to challenge Roman thinkers and leaders. The Romans themselves saw the overthrow of monarchy as a pivotal moment in their history. They dated their years from the founding of the Republic, ab urbe liberata, from the liberation of the city, making 509 BCE as significant as Romulus's legendary founding in 753 BCE. The anniversary of the Republic's establishment became a celebration of liberty, marked by solemn oaths and public ceremonies. But perhaps the Republic's greatest achievement was its stability. While Greek city-states oscillated between democracy, oligarchy, and tyranny, Rome maintained its republican system for nearly 5 centuries. The institutions established in the wake of Tarquin's overthrow proved durable enough to govern a city-state and, eventually, an empire. The transition from monarchy to republic marked more than a change in government. It represented a transformation in how Romans understood themselves and their destiny. No longer subjects of a king, they became citizens of a state where law, not individual will, was sovereign. This ideal of citizenship and legal order would become one of Rome's greatest legacies to world civilization.